Welcome to the Weathertop Report, your source for news updates on massively multiplayer online game under development at Amazon Games and Athlon Games. This game will be set in Tolkien's Middle-earth and is in its early development. Truth is, the only signs of life we have so far is a tweet and job posting from Amazon Games and 2 news releases over 2 years from Athlon Games. At this point, Amazon Games seems the first among equals of this development fellowship, so we'll start there. On July 10th of this year, Amazon Game Studios tweeted, "Big news, we're working with Lei to develop and publish a free-to-play MMO based on the Lord of the Rings world for consoles and PC. Do not interpret that as the game literally being set in the context of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. It's possible, but unlikely. Tolkien's Middle-earth has a deep history. The Silmarillion chronicles ages before Frodo ever found the One Ring, ages before any rings were forged. Across those ages is a rich context for the expansive fantasy MMO I have been waiting for." Speaking of, it is time for me to pick up a copy of the Silmarillion and re-explore that history during the long march toward game release. With that done, let's explore the team building at Amazon Games. Weaving into the detail of the job postings are some aspirational goals that signal an intention to build the kind of game I've always hoped for. At Amazon, they believe the evolution that began with arcade communities a quarter at a time, growing to the massively shared live streams and online experiences of today, will continue to a future where everyone is a gamer, every gamer can create, compete, collaborate, and connect with others at massive scales. That just sounds fantastic. And they describe the game that they're looking to build as being party-based role-playing games or hero collectors. Those two games are very different. I have very fond memories of over a decade playing party-based, massively multiplayer online role-playing games. First with Final Fantasy XI, later with Star Wars: The Old Republic. The Lord of the Rings Online released while I was committed to one or the other of these titles, so I never committed past a few interactions with the free trial version. I've been looking for the right MMORPG to jump into for a few years now. That's why I am following this development. MMORPGs have always been high value, with lots of immersive content, even with reasonable monthly subscriptions. Past that, Lei or Athlon Games is frequently cited as a free-to-play done right with their Warframe title. The mention of hero collector games has been a very different experience for me. After MMOs, I still wanted some kind of gaming activity and spent years with the Star Trek Timelines hero collector and now play Marvel Strikeforce. The IPs, or intellectual properties, attracted me. I just love Star Trek and I love Marvel. But the gameplay and low value of Star Trek monetization drove me from Timelines. I learned from that and have played Marvel Strikeforce with more spending control, but it's also a much lower value than an MMORPG. If Amazon and Athlon decide to build a hero collector, I hope it's more like collecting companions in Star Wars: The Old Republic, so that I can enjoy playing the game for many years. I do like collecting teams like the Fantastic Four, and can credit Marvel Strikeforce for being the catalyst that reignited the joy of reasonably priced comic subscriptions. So I don't mind spending on a 40% off direct from Marvels and keep on reading the stories as it comes out, but I am not going to pay just to click a button. I will continue with that title, but must admit the game has a limited scope, with a clear focus on only developing new characters to drive revenue, with having new things to do with the characters we love being a much lower priority. Back to Middle-earth Gaming. Amazon Games has hired a creative director and senior gameplay designer so far, so that's a fantastic start. There are 6 active job listings on their website. One's for a game director. Obviously need that. That person is going to integrate the gameplay with experiences outside the game, in creator content, community programs, and live streams. That sounds fantastic. They're talking about the community already. They're talking about how we'll share and how the community can share back too, which, of course, as a content creator myself, very important. They're looking for an art director and senior game artist, so they're getting ready to get right in there. And it's very exciting to hear that they want to look for an art style for their game that is different at a glance from the games and movies that have come before us. Well, there's a lot of games that have come before. There are a lot of movies that have come before. I think that sounds really interesting that they're going to try something new and different. I certainly don't need to play the same games that I've been playing for, 20 years at this point. I'd love to see something new from an IP that is the first IP I ever loved. So they also have a listing for a narrative designer that has a deep familiarity with the works of J.R.R. Tolkien and his estate, and experience in created stories for character-driven games such as party-based RPGs or hero collectors. Again, I don't really see those two as the same thing, but maybe they'll surprise us there. I certainly would love for them to do something amazing with the intellectual property that first got me past into reading, quite honestly, back in 7th grade. They also working on a senior gameplay engineer. Clearly you'll need that. And a user experience designer that will create a UI, or a user interface that is a joy to play in its own right. May I hope that I don't have to hold my hand on WASD for 15 years playing this game. I hope it's a little more fun than that. A little something different. That would be fantastic. I do wish Amazon the best in building the team that will make the game experience worthy of Tolkien's intellectual property and the stories that he has told. News is more limited over at Athlon Games. They've posted 2 news releases over the last 2 years. The first announced their partnership with Middleearth Enterprises and is likely key to their continued participation as the first game company Middleearth Enterprises, the IP owner, engaged. The second news release occurred the same day as the Amazon tweet and announced they were working together. Of mention is that Amazon would manage the release of the title worldwide, with the exception of China, where Leiyu, Athlon, would lead. Those are big plans for worldwide release of a beloved Tolkien IP, and it's great that it's grounded in the reality of what it takes to operate both at worldwide scale and specifically what is uniquely required to enter the Chinese gaming market. Those are all positive signs for a healthy business and a good plan. And with that, I retire to my hobbit hole for second breakfast and daydreams of future adventures in Middle-earth. I will regularly report on what is, and possibly is not, happening as the game is developed. The best way to keep up with the Weathertop report is to subscribe to this channel and hit the bell for notifications. I will also be posting content for Marvel Strikeforce, and the two will share a channel on YouTube until there's enough Middle-earth MMO news to warrant its own channel. Another way to stay up to date is to follow me on Twitter, where I will post news and links to the Weathertop report as each episode is released. Details of how to connect to my account will be available below the posting in the notes. Thank you.